Okay, hello and good morning everyone. Welcome to JFD Traders Espresso with me, Darius Anucauskas. Today's the 14th of January 2020. So welcome everyone. Welcome to this Tuesday's morning session where we're going to have a quick look at the markets, a few of the charts, the usual stuff. But before we do that, as always, let's quickly have a read through our risk disclaimers. So, the content we produce does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation, should not be considered as such, and does not in any way constitute an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. As always, a few seconds for you to read the rest, and we can continue. Okay, also just a quick mentioning of our JFD YouTube channel here, to which you can always subscribe to in order not to miss any of our upcoming videos, and of course our JFD Bank website, and specifically our JFD research page, which we update on a daily basis. So yeah guys, I believe you can find some useful stuff here. But for now, let's jump into the charts. Now the first one I want to touch on here is the DAX. Now I talked about DAX yesterday in my Traders Espresso as well. So basically what I was saying, that overall, yes, the index is balancing above its this medium term upside support line taken from the lowest point of August. Now it did have an attempt recently to kind of or should I say last week, it did have an attempt to try and reach the all-time high, which is roughly near the 13,597 zone, or in a way you could round it up towards the 600. But yesterday it slid and it closed slightly in the red. In general, yesterday the equity markets were slightly mixed. So the Europe was very mixed. I mean, the FTSE was up, but the DAX was down. The CAC 40 and the Eurostoxx 50 were also down, but the US equity market did perform well, especially the Nasdaq. So looking at this picture here right now, I mean, looking at specifically at DAX, yesterday what I've told you guys to keep an eye on, it was the 13,423 level here, roughly around here, which is basically the high of the 13th of December, or in other words, the highest point of December, which yesterday acted as a fantastic area of support. So today, looking at the cash index, the cash index is balancing around the 13,470 mark, roughly around there, so slightly above the yesterday's close. So in a way, we're still sticking to the same idea here. We're gonna, for now, we're gonna remain somewhat neutral and still until the price is stuck here between these two levels, the 13,423 and the 13,548 zone. So if we do get a breakthrough one of these levels, then yep, we will consider further directional move. So if we do get a drop below the 13,423, then yes, the next potential pit stop here could be around the 13,334, but then if that fails to withhold, then yes, further declines are possible towards this upside support line. This is where the downside might get limited, so keep your eyes on this one, guys. Could be quite interesting, but for now we're more on the neutral side. But if it starts pushing above the highs of last week, then yes, we will aim for slightly higher levels. Looking at gold, and gold continues to drift lower after we had a nice push higher last week, and this is where we saw gold kind of briefly pushing above the psychological 1600 level. It managed to reach the area around the 1611, but quickly, as you can see, it sold off and started drifting lower yesterday. Or was it actually yesterday or today? No, it was yesterday. Yesterday the commodity managed to drop below the 1540 zone, and basically this was one of the levels that I was keeping an eye on, and now it managed to drop below this 1540. So the next potential target here could be around this little territory right here near the 1525 zone. Now, don't get me wrong, it could, yes, it could continue sliding lower, but let's not forget that still the commodity, the precious metal, is trading above this kind of tentative, or even maybe not even really a tentative, but an upside support line taken from the low of the 26th of November. And in a way, if we see a further decline here, a further drop below the 1525, then yes, we could potentially start aiming for this upside lines. But in long story short, the way you could keep an eye on this one, if we have a drop below this little low here, this recent low near the 1535 mark, if we do get a drop below here, then yes, we will aim for the 1525, and then we'll slowly, gradually continue pushing further south. Initially, we will be targeting the 200 EMA here on the 4-hour chart, and then we'll take it from there. We're not gonna straight away target this upside line. We'll see how it performs around here. Maybe it might get a hold up somewhere near this 200 EMA. So that's why for now this is going to be our target. But in order to get a little bit more comfortable with that downside, a drop below the 1535 level would be required. So that's why, guys, be very careful, stay safe here, and have your stop loss in place. Looking at the in terms of the upside here now, for us to probably get a little bit more excited about the some higher levels again, well, ideally a push above this little level right here, and that's basically the high of the 10th of January. And if we do get a push above the 1563 level, then yes, we will aim for the highs of last week. So initially we'll aim for the 1595, of course the psychological 1600 level, but also we could start aiming for the highest point of last week near the 1611 zone. So for now, keep your eyes on these two levels here and these potential breakout points, and let's see how this is going to play out. Now, Bitcoin. So I've talked about Bitcoin yesterday, and basically with this one here, it managed to pop nicely. And let me just jump back into a daily chart on this one. So this is what I was talking about, guys. What I was saying, that we needed to see a nice good break above this kind of downside resistance line, a bit of a tentative one, but nevertheless a medium-term downside resistance line that did Bitcoin manage to break nicely. And looking at this picture here, what I was also saying, that we need to see a nice good clear move above the 8,470 mark, which was the high of last week, and only then we could aim for higher levels. Now again, it's a very interesting spot right now here. Now let's hope it's not a false breakout. If it is, then, well, we will remain neutral for some time, because for us to start looking at the downside again, well, at least in the short run, well, we would need to see a drop below the 7,689 zone here. And only then we will aim for these lows here, or even for the lowest point of December near the 6,430. But that's in terms of the downside here. Even if, let's say, if it decides not to travel higher and drops back below this downside line, if it remains still in this little territory right here, we're going to remain neutral. We're going to stay neutral, and we're going to wait for a clear move below the 7,689 zone before considering a potential move lower. But for now, everything's looking quite nice here for Bitcoin. Let's see if the daily candle can stay above this. For now, everything, like I said, everything's kind of leaning more towards the upside, but it will be very interesting to see if the daily candle can stay above the high of last week. So keep your eyes on that one, guys. Jumping into a few pairs now very quickly. Now also, just before I continue, I wanted to mention that, guys, today keep an eye on the economic calendar. We do have inflation data coming out from the US. Now, again, yes, something to consider, of course, for currently the expectation for the core and the headline year-on-year figures are around 2.3%. So that's, of course, the slightly higher than the Fed target of 2%. So let's see if the forecast comes out, or let's say if the forecast is correct. Yep, something, guys, to keep an eye on for today. Now, coming back to the pair side, now looking at GBPNZD here. Now, this is where it's quite interesting, and let me just jump back into a 4-hour chart. So basically, for now, you can see yesterday the pound was the weaker one, and we can see that, of course, we saw that initially, but then it started recovering a little bit, and but again today you can see that the bulls are really finding it hard to push this one back to the upside. Now, the way we could look at this here is, of course, we'll keep an eye on the low of yesterday near the 1.9538 zone, 39, roughly around there. A drop below this could lead towards further declines. We will aim then for the 1.9458 zone, which is roughly the low of the 30th of December, and then the next target for us could be the lowest point of December, and that's roughly around the 1.9412 zone. So keep your eyes on this one, guys. We're not going to track this one too much to the downside. First, we want to see how it's going to perform around here, because let's face it, we don't want to get ourselves into somewhat of a massive range here. So that's why, guys, for now it's going to be only this little area here, but again, we will consider the downside only if we see a drop below the 1.9539 zone, and then yep, we'll take it from there. In terms of the upside here, now with the upside, we will keep an eye on this little high here of yesterday, and actually that's the high of yesterday near the 1.9638. A nice good push above this could in a way open the path towards slightly higher levels, but for those who are more on the more on the cautious side, just keep an eye on the 1.9646 level as well. That's the low of the 9th of January. So a nice good push above this just could confirm a potential move further north. Now, we'll keep an eye on this one, guys. It's quite an interesting pair, and keep your eyes on these two barriers. If we do get a push above the 1.9646, of course, our main target is going to be around the 1.9840 mark, which is the high of the 7th of January. But before that, of course, we do have this 200 EMA here, which in a way also could provide decent resistance, as you can see, as it did here on the 7th of January, even though we did have an overshoot, but still it kind of overall it kept the rate lower. So that's why for now we're gonna maybe aim for the 200 EMA. If we get a push above the 1.9646, and then yes, we will aim for higher levels if we get a push further above the 200 EMA. But again, this is where the same concern applies on the upside as well. If the 1.9840 level holds and we see a retracement back down, then, well, I mean, we could be getting ourselves something of a wide range, but that's just a speculation for now. USDJPY, now this is quite interesting, and finally it managed to break this key barrier of resistance near the 100, or roughly around the 109.70-73. It pushed higher, it drifted further north. Now, looking at this picture here, there is a possibility we could see maybe a small setback here, a small correction first before another leg of buying, but of course we'll keep that idea in our minds, because if suddenly this decides to push further north straight away and pushes above the 110.21 zone, which is the high of yesterday, then yes, we will aim for higher levels straight away. But again, let's not forget that we might be a little bit overstretched on the shorter time frame, so that's why we'll keep it careful here. We'll keep it safe, and for now we're gonna keep an eye on a potential maybe correction here, maybe push a little bit higher test of the R2, today's R2, which is roughly around the 110.28, and then maybe a retracement back down could be possible. So keep your eyes on this one. Still the main one of the main targets for us on the upside is going to be, and let me just jump on into a daily chart, this 110.67 zone, which is marked by the high of the 21st of May. So this is a very nice potential area of resistance. We'll keep an eye on that one. If we get a push above the high of the or let's say a push above the 110.25 zone, so we'll keep an eye on that one. Now then, and by the way, this high here, it's not, I do apologize, it wasn't yesterday's, it was this morning high, so that's why keep your eyes on this one. EURJPY, I talked about this one yesterday, and this is what I talked about, and basically I was telling you to keep an eye on this initially downside resistance line taken from the high of the 13th of December, and we managed to clear that perfectly. So in my trader's tea time, I was talking about this one, and I was telling you guys to be very careful here, because if it gets a break, then yes, we might aim for higher levels, but initially we'll aim only for the 122.66, because then we'll have a look at how it performs around here, and if it struggles to push further above it, then we may see maybe a bit of a correction, and then maybe later on, if it, let's say, if it continues to trade above this downside resistance line, then yes, we could see another round of buying. So that's why for now, be very careful here. Keep your eyes on this one. Keep your eyes on this barrier. I do understand we did have already a few overshoots here above this 122.66, but still there is you can see that this barrier continues to hold. So let's see if the pair can actually overcome it today at least, and if it does, then yes, this could be quite interesting for the buyer. So let's keep an eye on this one. And the last pair for this session is going to be the euro dollar. So this is a 4-hour chart, and I talked about this one yesterday. Basically I was telling you guys to keep a close eye on this, well, medium-term upside support line taken from the low of the 1st of October, and of course I was telling you guys to keep a close eye on this little short-term downside resistance line. Now, we didn't quite get this little kind of further move lower that I was talking about, so basically didn't quite go as planned, but for now maybe it wanted to go first to check out this downside resistance line, and then if it holds, we could see a nice correction back down here, potentially leading towards this this medium-term upside support line. So so continue having this idea in your heads, but if it suddenly starts pushing above the downside line and pushes above the 1.1168, now this is where we will aim for higher levels. So that's why we'll aim for the 1.1205 or even the highest point of December, which is and let me just quickly adjust that that, guys. So, and that's roughly around the 1.1239 zone. So again, all eyes right now today on this downside line. If the way you could look at it, if it starts drifting back down and falls below this little territory right here, and let me just quickly put this one on the chart, below the 1.1111, then yes, we will consider a possible move towards this medium-term upside support line. So let's see how this is going to play out today. Okay guys, I hope you found it useful. Thank you very much for sticking around and watching until the end. If you want to join me later on at my traders tea time, as always, that's 14:15 GMT. For now, I hope you have a beautiful trading day, guys, and I'll see you later. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.